All right, welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a story that, honestly, it completely rewrites what most of us think we know about the Amazon rainforest. We're talking about a lost world that's been hiding right under our noses.
Okay, so just for a second, when I say the words Amazon rainforest, what pops into your head? I bet it's this vast, super dense green jungle, right? Maybe you picture some incredible wildlife, but fundamentally a place that's untouched by people.
Yeah, for most of us, that's the image, the ultimate symbol of a pristine, untouched wilderness. This ancient forest that's just been there for millions of years, totally separate from human civilization. And look, it's a powerful image, a really romantic idea.
But here's the thing. This is exactly where our story really kicks off, by blowing that myth of an untouched wilderness completely out of the water. Because what if that whole picture, the one that we all carry around in our heads, what if it's just completely wrong? What if the jungle we see today isn't a pristine wilderness at all, but the ghost of a massive fallen civilization?
This quote right here, it sums up a total revolution that's happening in archaeology. The new thinking is this: the Amazon is not a virgin forest. It's an ancient, abandoned garden, a landscape that was profoundly, deeply shaped by millions of people over thousands and thousands of years. So, you're probably asking, how did they find the proof? I mean, for centuries, all this history was hidden by that super dense canopy, but brand new technology is finally letting us peel back the leaves and see these ghosts of the jungle. And the key to all this is a technology called LiDAR. Seriously, this stuff is a game changer. The easiest way to think about it is like radar, but with lasers. So you have planes flying over the jungle, shooting literally billions of laser pulses down to the forest floor. And by measuring how long each one takes to bounce back, they can digitally erase all the trees and see the exact shape of the ground underneath. It's like having X-ray vision for the plant. And what they're finding, oh my gosh, it is absolutely breathtaking. We're not talking about a few isolated huts here, no. We're seeing vast networks of ancient cities, huge raised causeways connecting them like highways, and massive agricultural earthworks. A sprawling, highly organized society that's been hidden all this time. And the scale is just mind-boggling. Before Columbus ever set foot in the Americas, archaeologists now figure that the Amazon basin was home to as many as 8 to 10 million people. To put that in perspective, that's more people than lived in many European countries at the same time. Just let that sink in. And just to really drive that home, some of these city clusters were bigger than a lot of famous medieval European capitals. We're talking about urban centers on a scale we literally never thought was possible in the Amazon. So this wasn't just some sparse collection of tribes. This was a full-blown civilization. But that raises a huge question, right? How did so many people manage to live, and not just live, but thrive, in a jungle that has, believe it or not, surprisingly poor soil for farming? Well, the secret, it turns out, was in the soil itself. They basically invented their own. It's called terra preta, which just means block earth. And this isn't natural soil. Nope. It's a man-made super soil engineered by these indigenous people to be incredibly fertile and, get this, self-renewing. There are patches of this stuff that are still fertile today, hundreds of years after they were abandoned. And it wasn't simple. It was a really sophisticated process. They would use these slow-burning fires to create charcoal. And then they'd mix that charcoal with stuff like broken pottery, bone, and all their organic waste. This created this rich, black soil just teeming with microbial life that could support massive farms year after year. And this right here, is the part that just blows my mind. This wasn't just farming. This was large-scale landscape engineering. They weren't just clearing the forests to plant stuff. They were actively managing the entire landscape, creating the fertile ground they needed. In fact, a lot of the fruit and nut trees that we think of as wild in the Amazon today, they're actually the descendants of ancient, carefully planted orchards. They engineered the very biodiversity that we now cherish as natural. Which, of course, leads us to the big, tragic question. If you have up to 10 million people living in this complex, sophisticated society, where did they all go? What on earth happened to them? The answer? Well, it's a catastrophe on a scale that's almost impossible to comprehend. You have this peak population around 1491. Then, in 1492, the first Europeans arrive, and they bring with them diseases like smallpox and measles, diseases the native populations had absolutely zero immunity to.
And in just over a century, just a century and a half, it's estimated that up to 95% of the indigenous population died. Let me say that again, 95%. Entire cities were wiped off the map, generations of knowledge were lost forever, and a civilization was basically erased from human memory. It's one of the greatest demographic disasters in all of human history.
And so without its 10 million gardeners, the forest did what it does best. The abandoned gardens, the farms, the cities, they were all just swallowed up by the jungle. It grew back with such incredible force that it buried this entire world, creating the perfect illusion of a pristine, untouched wilderness. An illusion that has fooled almost everyone for the last 500 years.
So why does uncovering this lost world matter so much today? Because this isn't just some interesting piece of history. It fundamentally changes how we need to think about the Amazon's future. Think about it. What we always called natural is, in many ways, cultural. It proves that humans aren't just a force for destruction. These ancient Amazonians lived in huge numbers while actively enhancing the biodiversity around them. This history shows us that indigenous knowledge holds powerful lessons for sustainability, and that any effort to conserve the Amazon must recognize its deep human history.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really crucial question. If we now accept that the Amazon isn't some empty wilderness to be roped off and left alone, but is in fact a vast garden, built and managed over millennia, then who should be its gardeners today? Who has the right, and more importantly, who has the knowledge? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.